I want to really talk about this concept that the book is about, the concept of unlocking greatness. What does it mean? Where does it come from? It sounds a little bit hyperbolic. It sounds like it's much, like it's just promising big and it doesn't really deliver. What is greatness? Can I be great? I'm just trying to get by. Like maybe greatness is for those few people that I can see on a screen or hear about in a book or read about. But like for the rest of us, like normal people, like how does that even work? And it's specifically because we are entering into the time where I believe Hashem is telling us, stop settling. You need to push for something big. This next holiday is the holiday of big. Like Hashem could have he could have done this so much easier. Like we were in Egypt, he could have been told Moshe, listen, here's the deal, I gotta get you out. So like on Tuesday afternoon, I'm shining the lights, you know what I'm saying? Like, and just leave. We could have been having like shawarmas on Ben Yehuda Street before the lights go back on, and the Egyptians are like, where are the Jews? You know what I'm saying? Like, Hashem doesn't do that. He takes his time, it's a year, it's 10 plagues, each plague is bigger than the next. He doesn't even like take us around the sea, he doesn't get a boat or a plane, he splits the sea like it's the Pesach program of our dreams. The whole entire experience of Pesach is big. It's great. It's powerful. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is that we look at holidays as events that took place in the past. We think that what we do is we have celebrations of what happened a long time ago. We look at Judaism like Thanksgiving, right? What's Thanksgiving for us, for the people that grew up in America? Everybody knows Thanksgiving is the holiday that a long, long time ago, the Indians and the Pilgrims got together-ish, and they ate food-ish, and I think there was turkey there and cranberry sauce, and there was probably football somewhere, and they played football and watched, and as a result, now what we do in November is everybody gets together, and we do that, and they must have said thank you along the way, so we call it Thanksgiving, and it's Thursday, and that's what it is. So if you ask any American kid, what is Thanksgiving, they'll tell you a long, long, long time ago. And so we commemorate it to remember then. And it's a nice time for family, and we get together, and that's family's nice, and it's tradition, and this has been our culture forever and ever and ever. And so when someone tells a Jew, well, what are you doing at a Seder? We're sitting around with the family. Well, a long, 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 long time ago, we were in this place called Egypt, and we were trying to get out, and mom, for the first time ever, thought of something besides food and feeding her children, and she forgot to bake the bread. And so we had bad bread, and we got out quickly, and we had maror, because there was, and so that's what we do. Why do you do? So it's a nice time to be with family, and family was important, and that's what happened then. And one of the greatest misconceptions we have is that we think that Judaism is commemorative. It doesn't really apply, but you know it's important? Tradition, and customs, and culture, and this is what we do. We're Jews. This is our Thanksgiving. And then Nesiv Shalom and the Michtav Eliyahu says, that's not how it works. Let me tell you how it works. So if those of you who've been to these holiday-related classes, you know where I'm going, at least in the example. When my son was very little, he asked me once, he said, Daddy, can you explain me voltage? So I said, here's how voltage works. You go to the wall, you plug things in. When I was growing up, you plug things. The only thing you plug in today is chargers. You know what I'm talking about? Anyone have this? And by the way, you ever notice, by the way, you could have 100 phones in the house, there's only one charger. You know what I'm talking about? The greatest thing in a house today, the most valuable asset is not the boiler. Those are the old days. You'll be freezing cold, it's okay. It's not the door, it's okay. No, anyone can walk in. The most valuable asset we have today is chargers. It's amazing. And you know what the best part, I just saw this thing on TV the other day. You know what the best part about chargers is that like this entire like cheshbon as to who gets to use the charger. You ever have this? You ever like charge your phone, you come back and it's at like 2%, and you're like, what happened to my phone? And someone's like, well, you were on 68%. And I was only on 42%. So I'm like, yeah, but since when do I have a line that says, when I hit 68, please somebody pull me out so when I leave? You ever have that feeling? And but like, just for one more second, do you ever have this feeling like when you're not charged enough and you leave the house, like it's total panic? You ever get that feeling where like you're under 10% and Apple's like or under 20 and Apple's like, you want to go low battery? And you're like, okay, fine. And you leave, and like you feel like if you get caught somewhere, you're just gonna like be stranded forever. Like you'll never know how to get back. You won't know how to drive anywhere. You can't. It's amazing that there was once a time in our lives where, and I don't remember this, but I'm supposed to. I left my house, and I just didn't have everything with me. I didn't have my maps. I didn't have an encyclopedia. I didn't have a phone. It's amazing. And somehow I managed to like go to the park and the store and get back in alive. I don't know if I could ever do that again. So it's amazing. But that's what we think. We think that the way it works ultimately is, so when I was talking to my kid about voltage, I said, here's how it works. You get an outlet, right? And that outlet, there's energy, there's electricity. It's energy. And the way it works is you can take your charger and plug it in. But if I take the stadium, City Field's lights, and I plug it into the outlet, it's not going to go. There's electricity, but it's not turned up. It's not enough voltage. So the way it works in our lives is as follows, and this is one of the greatest misconceptions that Jews have, is that they see Judaism as static. We see our religion as commemorative. It doesn't exist in this world today. It's not dynamic. It's what we did. And then what we do to get us through Judaism is it makes God happy. I don't want to do the wrong thing because I got like a deal with God. Like you hook me up, I hook you up. Like it's a thing we got going on. It's called Amazon spiritual shopping. That's how it works. You need things, I need things. You need prayers and matzah for a very long time, and you hate chametz for like 8 days, and you like it again. And I need stuff too. I need health, happiness. I need some money. Extra money wouldn't kill you. And like, you know what I'm saying? You ever had this? And like you do the right thing and you don't get what you want. You know how many emails I get from people? You know how many? I can't count how many emails I get from people saying, I don't know if there's a God. Okay, how come you don't know there's a God? I davened for this thing like 16 times and it didn't come. I'm like, really? Because the person's thinking like that's the deal, right? And I don't know, Amazon delivers overnight. Like, does God not have Prime? Like, what's going on over here? This is the deal. And so we don't know what we do. So instead, we turn it into a, he cares, so let me just somehow make him happy. And as a result, as a Jew, you go through your year and it's like, okay, I hope I can make him happy. And along the way, have a little bit of a feeling and see my family and have that good things. But at the end of the day, my only hope is somehow to appease the king with all his customs so that I get what I really want. And lo and behold, what's happening is we're not getting what we want because we're missing the whole thing. You see, what we want out of life is a certain intangible feeling. What I've years for this book, and when I've interviewed people and studied, you go around the country, you go around the world, what you find is what we want out of life is a certain experience. We want to feel like we are living a great life. It's not the challenges that bother us. It's the feeling like I can't. What gets us more than anything in the world is disempowerment. I'm not enough. I can't break this. It's not the wall that bothers me. It's that I can't break the wall. I can't go past this. I'm not good enough. You can see people that have everything in the world, but around them are people with a little bit more, and they walk around and it's, I'm not enough. Because what we all deep down want inside us, it's not the things we have outside. It's not the trophies or the homes or the PhDs, anything that we're after. It's even not the more important things like I want to get married at this time and have this type of, what we really want out of life is a certain life feeling. It's a bounce in our steps. It's a feeling of being empowered. It's that feeling when life throws something your way and you feel you can handle a challenge. It's this inside intangible feeling like I am touching. The English word would be greatness. And we go through our year and we miss all the chances for it because here's how it works. Throughout the year, God takes the voltage of our world. This whole world is empowered, is being powered by spirituality. Our bodies, if we pulled it apart, we couldn't put it back together because what really drives us is this intangible thing called the soul. That's what makes me and you, me and you. And when I do something for you and I feel that intangible feeling of awesomeness, when I hold the door or give you something or sacrifice for my family member or just for a stranger, the feeling that I get when I'm connecting to that stranger that I sacrificed is not physical. It's a spiritual something. And the greatest moments that we have in our lives, if you look back and go, what are my greatest moments? You will find that the greatest moments you have in life are moments where you sacrifice something physical, but you felt something spiritual. You gave up something and somebody smiled and said, thank you. You gave up something for somebody else, and in giving up something, you felt something better, and you said, I just want more of that. That's all we have children, by the way, for. You ever notice that? Children are the worst deal in the world. They're the most illogical move anybody ever makes. You know what I'm talking about? You have them, and even before you even have them, they're annoying to mom, and then they get big, and you got to carry it around the whole time. Then you have them, and from the second you have them, it's diapers and fetching and crying and diapers and fetching and crying, and then they get to be kids, and they want everything, and then they become teenagers. Oh, okay, and then it becomes even better. And then after giving and going and sure, at the end of it, hopefully, by the way, at the end, like, the only thing like you really want from your kid is like, maybe you can call me once. My mom's like, Charlie, you think you call me? Like, I call him like, hi, Mom. She's like, oh, Charlie, like, you call me. I'm like, can you babysit? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then maybe like after a life of giving every dollar you have, and it's not enough, and finally the kids get like married and they stand by the chuppah, they're like, and I want to thank my rebbes, and I want to thank my friends, you guys are the best. Oh, and thanks Mom and Dad for everything. And Mom's like, oh, you're so welcome for sure. You're the best kid in the world. Why do we have more than one? I get one kid, I totally get. Why would anybody have a second child? It's the worst deal possible for the parents. You know what the reason is? Because as that parent sacrifices for that kid, something comes alive in a parent. And as the physical, even though may not, as you're going through with the no sleep, you don't feel it as much. But as you sacrifice, what you get is an intangible feeling of spirituality. And it's in the spirituality that you find your greatness. So Pesach comes and goes, here's how it works. Don't ever walk through my holidays and do it like a robot. You think I need like a robot stuffing matzah into her mouth? What I'm doing is, something happened a long time ago. Nothing happens because there's so much that happened in our history that we have no idea about. So much of our history is in history. Most of what happened to us from our beginning until now, we have no idea about. Most of us don't even study Navi, and we don't even know what's going on, and nothing gets continued. If we're doing it today, if it lasted, what it is, it's not the thing that's important, it's what it represents. Because behind the thing is this world of spirituality. And there's sometimes a day, a night, a weekend, and a year where God says, I turn up the energy, the voltage in one particular area, and you can attach your soul to that. And if you tap into that energy, you've got a power that you didn't have before. The goal of holidays is to plug into something bigger so that you get lit up bigger, so that you go into your life and your life is stronger and greater in everything that you do. And each holiday has their own theme. The theme of Yom Kippur is forgiveness. And the energy of forgiveness and starting anew on Yom Kippur is pulsating in the world. You go to Yom Kippur and you sort of bow through it and hope it's over. Yeah, God's like, okay, fine, I'll forgive you. Okay, I'm not going to zap you. Stop. Who taught you this? You missed it. You could have done so much. You could have renewed every aspect of everything you ever wanted to change, and now you missed it. You come into Pesach, and there's an energy there. And the energy of Pesach is the energy of freedom. But what is freedom? So I had I don't want to say argument. When we wrote the book, we had to talk about a title. In the secular publishing world, everything's like a meeting. And I'm very blessed, the best agent, the best publishers, I love them all. But it took us maybe a month on the title. A month, because you had to take the sales, and is it going to sell, and is it too much, and is it too little? It's a committee, a committee. And I remember saying to them, I dafka wanted this particular title. And they said, how come? And I said, because this is the thesis of what I believe in. You see, most people think that greatness is there. If I get there, if I do this, if I could become, then I'm going to be. Because when you're little, they teach you, you're not a good student. You just got to get this grade, and then you'll go to this, and then you'll go to this, and then you'll become this. And when you're this, then everyone's going to clap and say you finally arrived. The problem is we all get there, or many of us get there, and we're like, no one's clapping. They're like, oh yeah, that was a joke. I'm not really clapping for you. Now you got to pay for your kids to do it. The way it really works is that greatness is never there. You know where greatness is? It's inside. We never have to become great. You're born with so much greatness because each of us are born b'tselem Elokim. If an individual walked around and actually for 1 minute would put the phone down and we'd stop for a second and just contemplated that the core of who we are is a piece of the creator of humanity, the piece of the divine, what we would realize is all the greatness I ever want, I am running for, I'm never going to get because it's not out there. All the greatness I ever want is in here. The game of life is not getting greatness. The game of life is revealing greatness. It's unlocking greatness. And the reason why we all have this yearn, the reason why we all want it for is because it's how we're built. It's not a question of who we are, because we have it naturally. That's why if you look at kids growing up, when they're younger, they dominate the world. You ever watch 3-year-olds? 3-year-olds are the greatest thing. It's what you do from like ages 2. When we have this discussion, me and my wife in our house, like, what's your favorite age? My wife's favorite age is like 0 to 2. It's like unbelievable. They sit there, they don't talk, they snuggle on demand. It's perfect. For me, it's a total wash. 0 to 2, nothing's happening 0 to 2. Just keep it fed and hopefully, like, alive, and you're good to go. For me, the fun begins 2 to 5. Do you know why? 'Cause that's where everything happens. You ever see like a 3-year-old operate? You know what I'm talking about? Like 2, when they get to 2, they can't do anything. When you graduate 5, you've learned everything you need in life. You learn how to eat, you learn how to read, mostly. You know how to eat, you go to the bathroom, you know how to do most of what you do. But basically, when you come out of 5, it's like math and science and you're good for the rest of your life. Why? Because you look at a 3-year-old, you'll never see a bunch of 3-year-olds by like the park, sitting around like, this is so stupid. Anyone have an iPhone? I went on the slide twice and I'm bored. Their whole life, they're like bees. You ever fight with a 3-year-old? My 3-year-old wants a cookie. You ever fight with a 3-year-old for a cookie? You ever do this? Kid's like, I want a cookie. You go, okay, you want a cookie? 1 per customer. Kid's like, I have another hand, And you go, 1 per customer. Kid's like, I will stand here for the rest of my life. What do the parents do? Every time, here you go. Go to Pesach Seder, there's 100 people in the room, right? That 3-year-old's in a bad mood, everyone's killing each other. Kid falls asleep on the couch like, okay, I don't know why I feel better, but I feel better, okay? Let's do this again. I'm sorry, Grandma, I didn't mean to say that. Let's start this from scratch. Because when we're born, there's a certain dynamicness in which we see the world. We take on everything. We learn and grow because there's nothing blocking us from us. We'll talk about it in chapter 7. The image, the things that block us. What that is, when you are born with a soul, what happens is you come into this world and you can take the world on. However, along the way, what happens is you take this and you constrain it and constrain it and constrain. I can't, not me, I can't, not me, I can't, feels weird, not gonna be vulnerable, I don't think so, not me. And you get to a place where all you think you can do is this little thing, and what you're stuck with is an incredible reservoir of power in a constraint little hole. In Hebrew, a constraint is a metzar. Metzar is to constrain. Yetzias Mitzrayim is not just a bunch of Jews going from sand dune A to sand dune B 3,000 years ago. We're not having Thanksgiving. We have plenty of other things to do as Jews and to go back and remember that. What's happening is Hashem is saying, I put something into the world that enabled a nation to emerge from the most constrained environment ever. And so in that world, right now, in the spiritual world, is voltage, it's energy, it's powerful. You need to plug into the ability to free yourself from what is constraining you. Because Mitzrayim is the block to our greatness. Constraint is what's blocking us from us. From us. And when you go through Mitzrayim, when you go through Pesach, and all you get after a week is a bunch of bad bread and some indigestion, and so you go to Pesach program maybe, and you get in the pool, maybe, and you see a lot of family, then you have good times, then you got some politics and non-politics and some drama, and then some good times again. If all you get at the end of Pesach is some food and you hooked up God's like, for real? I put the energy, just plug into the energy. We're doing this again? You're just a bunch of robots? And the question is how? And the answer is vast. It's everything you study and everything you'll go into and every moment that you ask every question. But I want to talk about 2 ideas here right now. I want 2 ideas that get into the core of how one comes out of their constraints, which is based on what we wrote here in this book. but it's Jewicized. This is more of a secular cover. So let's start with the first thing. Let's hit two things, and then I'll call it a night. Let's start with the first. The most, I think, popular custom, maybe all year long. If you look at the most powerful tradition, what's the most popular tradition in the world today? Not everybody everyone has different levels of practice. You take almost every Jew, regardless of their background, and they're really doing arguably one or two things that almost never got lost. What is the most popular, most well-known Jewish custom a year is? The Pesach Seder, no? Almost everyone's got a Seder. Someone's coming to some Seder. Why? So you ask somebody, well, what's the Seder for? And they'll go, oh, okay, because Seder is the anniversary of leaving Egypt, no? We left Egypt. It was a big deal. It's a massive event. We all want to remember it. So the year after we left the Seder, we remembered leaving Egypt. And then we remember the time, we woke up in the morning and the mom forgot to break the bread and we had bad bread, see, bad bread. And they heard us, you see, maror, and we sit back and we're free. And then we sing Avadim Hayinu and we drink the cups. The experience of the Seder really is like an anniversary of when we left, right? That's how I remember it, that's how I learned it. So if that were the case, when should the first Seder have taken place? If the Seder is the anniversary of leaving Egypt, what should the first Seder have been? The year after we left, right? You get married, and the next year is your first anniversary. That's how it works. When was the first ever Seder? The first ever Seder was the night before they left. What? That means they sat around, eating the bad bread, maror, tzli eish, matzos umrorim yochlubu. They sat around, they leaned, they were free in Egypt. Yeah, how weird is that? Can you imagine having looking at the wedding pictures the night before you get married? Like, how freaky is that? Are you joking me? You can't wait the year for the anniversary? You gotta have the anniversary party ready before you even walk down the aisle? I don't understand what in the world we were doing. We're sitting around and we're going through the motions of how we left. I don't understand something. If the whole purpose of eating matzah is because of some technical difficulty of us having to run out, they ate matzahs the night before. They didn't even have to run out yet. What were they eating matzahs for? Why didn't they just break bread? There was no issue. The issue became in the morning. What in the world is going on? They weren't free. Why was the Seder the night before? What is it the anniversary of? So I want to take a little bit of a left turn. And I want to take you to a now well-known psychologist, a guy named Robert Rosenthal. And Robert Rosenthal worked for a small little school in Boston called Harvard University. And Robert Rosenthal was an associate professor in the 60s when he came up with this idea. He went to a school in California and he worked with a teacher and they did the following test one day. They went to the school and they took out all the teachers and they put them in a room and they said, here's the deal. I, Robert Rosenthal, from Harvard, developed a test to test for what he calls springing intelligence, which means you have students, they get grades. I can tell which of your students will get an exponentially better grade. They're B students. I can tell you this year, they'll be A students. Never did it before. I invented it. Teachers were like, unbelievable. They all leave. He gives all the students the test. He takes all the scores and he randomly selects a few students. He picks them out of a hat. Brings the teachers back in and goes, I wanted to give you the scores. Here are the top 6 students. Now here's the thing he didn't tell them. The test was all made up. He made the whole thing up. It was a total fake out. If I would do it, I'd go to jail. He does it, he gets tenure. That's what happens when you're from Harvard. The teachers were like, for real? And he goes, oh, did I not tell you? I'm from Harvard. And they're like, oh, thank you so much, sir, for being in our presence. And they walk out thinking that 6 students are smarter than they actually are. The whole thing was made up. He leaves for the year. He comes back after the year and goes, I want to see the test scores of these students. Top 6 kids in the English class are these kids. Okay, listen, English, you're marking tests. It could be a bad essay. Teacher goes, I don't know, I don't like it, but the Harvard guy thinks he's smart. Maybe I'm the one that's dumb, gives him an A. Math. Math is objective. Either you can divide or you can't divide. Top 6 kids in the class. This is weird. Then he gives them an IQ test. Remember the IQ test? right? I remember that. When I grew up, at least, I remember the IQ test. The lady comes over with the blocks, you know what I'm talking about? And my mom goes to the other room all nervous, and then she comes in and she goes, how did my Charlie do? And she goes, do you have any other kids? Maybe you'll be an athlete. Anyone have that conversation but me? Because the IQ test teaches you how smart you're going to be for the rest. We give you a number, and this is your number for life. And he noticed something amazing. From ages first grade to sixth grade, they go up an average of 4 to 12 points in a year. And this begins an entire world that is, to this day, still evolving in the world of psychology, and it's chapter 2. And what he comes up with is one of the greatest principles that I think a human being needs to understand. You see, Robert Rosenthal was trying to break one way of thinking. That we live a life and we think that the way life works is that my reality shapes my beliefs. I know who I am. I know what I can do. I know what I was given. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. That's how life works. I have this ability, not that ability. I can think like this, not like this. I'm good at this, not like this. And then if you're parents, you get to extend this courtesy to your children. This kid is going to be my this. This kid, I don't really think so much, but, you know. This kid, and this kid, because we know reality. All of us. We think we all experience reality. And in fact, we think that we got it better than anybody else. Ever get this feeling? Where you think that somehow the world is crazy because they don't think like you? You know what I'm talking about when it comes to religion? Anyone have this? Anybody who's more religious is like a crazy fanatic. Can you calm down a drop? Everyone who's less religious is like barely Jewish, but thank God they have me to bring them in the fold. Anyone have this? Right? That's everything in life, right? You look around politically, like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Like, why doesn't anyone have the thought, like, why doesn't the president just call me up? Like, why doesn't God just consult me and I can figure the whole world's problems out? Because I see the world, and what I see is reality. Even when we grow, you ever had this, by the way, where you're feeling more inspired than everyone? If the whole world just shifts with you wherever you go, that becomes the new middle. I had this once. I was traveling once. I'll never forget this. I go to a community, and I meet the guy who picks me up, takes me to the shul, and the rabbi says to me, Charlie, you're going to love this community. I said, okay, how come? He goes, we are right in the middle. I'm like, I found the community in the middle. This is amazing. How did I end up here? And the rabbi leaves, and the president goes to me, the rabbi's a little bit fanatical. I am right in the middle. I'm like, finally. Then the guy who I was staying with, the host, is like, the president's barely religious. Everybody's right in the middle. That's how life works. So we see reality. You know what happens when we see reality? We shape our beliefs off reality. I know what I can do. I know what my life could be. I know what's possible for me. This is life. I know who I am, and I know what my future could be. So we shape what's possible for us here. Forget the world giving us stuff. What's possible for me here because of where I am today. I know who's smart and who's not smart. I know which kids can succeed and can't succeed, and I'm going to expect this much from them because I know them already. And what Robert Rosenthal said was, actually, it's the opposite. You see, reality doesn't shape beliefs. Beliefs shape reality. You see, those kids weren't smarter than other kids. And by the way, nothing happened to them. They didn't get A's. They didn't get little PhDs. Mom didn't get like bumper stickers that said, my kid's smarter than your kids, ask the guy from Harvard. Nothing happened except for some person walked in and said, I think more. And some teacher just looked at that kid and said, I think more of you than you actually can do. And they didn't become like Einsteins. They didn't cure cancer. But inside everybody is that difference between where I am and where I could be. This is everything in life. Life is not being everything always. Life is a difference between how I feel now and how I should feel every single day. What my life should feel like. And we think it's because of how I know my life is today. And what Robert Rosenthal started to talk about is, in fact, reality doesn't shape beliefs. What you believe, what you can perceive, what's in front of you, what's possible for you actually will shape what happens to you. Now, this is a big thing. What you believe, what you perceive that's possible for you is what happens to you. How is that possible? So I got a couple more minutes. Stick with me. We got to get into like a little bit of this. We're going to get through it together. And if not, you can read it later. Here's how it works. One of the greatest misconceptions we have is that we live in a world, and the world we live in is a world of doing. We judge who we are by what we do. You ever speak to somebody and ask them their name? What's the next question you ask after their name? What do you do? And then, by the way, after that question's over, there are no more questions. You ever notice that? Once you ask that question, you know everything about them. What's your name? Oh, what do you do? What do you do? School must have been hard. Where do you go to school? Where do you go to school? Okay. And there's nothing else to ask. You know why? Because the way we perceive the world is what you do is who you are. And in life, we live our world and we live under the principle of do, have, be. Do things to have things so you can be somebody. You want to be a good student? Do work. Have good grades, and when they give you letters after your name that are the good letters, then you will be a good student. You want to be a tzaddik? Here's what you do. Do mitzvos. Have schar, and then you could be a tzaddik. You want to be rich? Okay, well then do a lot of work, have a lot of money, and then you could be rich. Because when you live in a world and your perspective is about doing, and when you grow up in a world where since you're little, they just put you in little groups based on when you were born, and they stick you in a place and say, okay, everybody, we're going to set the rules on what's important. Go, do, and we'll tell you who's important. It's all good. I love education, blah, blah, blah. It's all wonderful. But that's just life, and there's nothing wrong with schools. What are they going to do? Schools are constrained in their own way, and they're doing amazing for who they are. Schools are the greatest thing we have in the world, one of the greatest inventions in the modern world. But we're all in the space of thinking that, you know why I can't change? Because you know how change starts? With what I do. And if change starts with what I do, I can't do enough of it. And I can't do it long enough to get to being something different. So we get inspired sometimes, we go home and we start doing something different, and then what happens is after a couple of days, it just doesn't change us. So we go, you know what? I knew it. That's who I was. Ever have this? Round and round we go every year. Yom Kippur, you get the little, I had this once. I get to like Yom Kippur with my resolutions, and I'm like so pumped. I'm like, take Yom Kippur so seriously. I'm so Sephardi about this, and I'm like all in. And because all the printed Asham news isn't enough for me. I gotta like add like pages upon that, so this way I can get all the guilt on the table. And then finally I get there, and it's year one. I'll never forget this. I come back the next year. I remember last Yom Kippur, I was like killing it. I was crying. I was davening. I was like, when I was done with Yom Kippur, I'm like, God, you were lucky to have me as your son. Just noticing that. And I come back the next year, and I go into my machzor, because you open your Yom Kippur machzor once a year, and what falls out? My last year's resolutions, what I did wrong. And I come in, I'll never forget this, Erev Yom Kippur, and I pick up last year's, and I pick up this year's, and it's like line for line. Like even the examples are exactly the same. You ever have this? You do a little bit, you go right back. How come? Because we got the wrong equation. We think we change with do, have, be. You know what happens if you start doing too much too quick? You think you go in a place, you get stopped, you give up, you go back to where you were. Anybody do that? You lose weight a little bit, you hit one little snag, and you're back. I knew it. I'm going to be patient. Got little kids? I'm going to read Goodnight Moon 100 times tonight. I don't care. 2 times like, okay, don't you get it? There's a lady in a room in a red balloon, okay? He's going to go to sleep. Let me hold the phone behind your head so I can scroll my emails and still think you're looking at me. Anyway, okay, I don't do that either, by the way. It's terrible. But let me tell you how it really works, based on Rosenthal and like 10 other chapters. The way growth and change really works is not do, have, be. The way growth and change really works is be, do, have. You see, one of the greatest aspects of being the soul that we spoke about and having an intangible piece of God is that you, who you are, and what you do are not the same. In the physical world, what you do is who you are, because they have no other way of judging you. Yeah, if you go to a school and it's physical, they're not going to know who's a good student. They're going to judge you by whatever is a normal way that you judge people. When you go out into the world, what's the world going to do? No one's going to look into your soul. No one knows into your head. So you're living in the physical world. So that's the physical rules. And what all of us think is that we're physical human beings, and we play by those rules. But the Kadosh Baruch Hu says that's not how it works in the real world. Is that how it works in Godland? Is that who you are? You're a soul. And that means that soul doesn't require to do the things to change who you are. You know when you change who you are? You change who you are when you are actually committed to being somebody different. At that moment when it's real, not when it's guilt, not when I don't want to lose it, but I have no choice. Not when I should be better, but I don't want to be better. Just because Yom Kippur's got 4 more hours left and I can go back to my life and get you out of the way. And I can't wait for, it's a full year till I got to do this whole thing again. When you actually go through your life and say, I'm going to be an incredible father, an incredible mother. I'm going to be an incredible sister. I'm going to be an incredible person. I'm going to be kind and I'm going to be giving. Once you make that determination that's who you are, what happens to your soul is your soul actually shifts. You become that. It's a Raya and Gemara. There's a famous Gemara about the story of whether or not you get married on a condition. If a woman gets married on the condition that her man is righteous, it's a Gemara. It's halacha l'maisa. You get married, that your man is righteous. He could be the worst guy in the world. He walks up that aisle. He walks down that aisle. Married. How could it be? There's a condition that he's righteous. The rabbis say, because maybe under the chuppah, there was a moment where he said to himself in a sincere way, a hirur tshuva, I am going to be righteous. At that moment, when he was sincere, when it was real, his be shifted. And as a result, even if he did the stuff before, that's not who he is. You know how great people work? You know how change really happens? Is you get to a place in your life and you say, this is who I'm going to be. Period. Enough waiting. Enough playing games. This is what I wanted for so long. I'm done wanting. This is me. And when you make a determination that this is you, something shifts inside you. When you have that baby that first time, it's amazing. Anyone who has parents, you know what that feeling is like. When you take that kid home from that first time, you know that feeling when they give it to you, you're like, really, I can just take this thing home? You're like, yeah, you had it, you raised it. You ever have that feeling? And you come back and you're like, no, because do you know who I am? Did you do a background check? This isn't going to work out well. And you come into that house, I don't care if your wife was like a mower and had 100 nieces, do me a favor. That first week when you bring that baby home, it's like, forget about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the expectations are so low, right? It's just don't kill it. That's the only goal you have. Is just feed it somehow, keep it breathing, and you're the greatest parents ever. And when you're a parent, you never were a parent before. And you know what makes a great parent? Someone that walks from that hospital into that house and says, I'm going to be a great parent. Because when you make a determination to be something, what happens is something shifts in your life. But here's where it gets to be amazing. You see, your mind is limited, and it can only see a few things. You can't see everything. You don't have the capacity to see the whole world. If anyone is or has a child with sensory processing disorder, you understand what it's like when you walk in and take too many things in at once. We get a little thing to look at every moment. So much of our lives we're missing. Do you know why we're missing it? Because we're missing it thinking that we want to become something when had we just determined that this is who we're going to be, we would look up in our eyes and we would see what I have to do to get there. You decide you want to be a good dad, a good mom. Once you make that call, you open your eyes and what you see in front of you are the ways to become a better parent that were always there that you never ever saw before. You make a call to be a good spouse and you lift up your eyes and you see your spouse and what once annoyed you, you realize this thing that's annoying me is what I can do to be a good spouse. Our lives that we want, the life we want, is the life we have. It's not the life that's the problem. And of course there are some people that are grappling with massive challenges. And I'm not going to get into the extremes, but the typical, normal, day-to-day life that we walk through is the life that we want. The challenge is that we don't have the glasses to see it because we go through life waiting to become something. And what great people do is they determine this is who I am. And once I make a decision as who I am, I look up and say, okay, be. Now what do those people do? I don't got to do something to have something to prove to somebody that I am. I am when I choose I am. I'm a soul, not a body. I don't get judged by what I do. If we got judged by what we did, we wouldn't have Yom Kippur. You go a whole year of sinning, you stand in front of God, and it's forgiven for what? You didn't change anything. You didn't go back the whole year and fix all your problems. God goes, that's not how it works. You stand in front of me and get real for 1 minute. I can get like 10 seconds of a sincere human being where the world's not buzzing and beeping you to death. Like you can actually be a human being and stand in front of me and look up after 25 hours of fasting and you're about to faint, and then that 1 minute where I have you still unconscious, you look up and go, oh my gosh, I'm not the person that I think I am. I'm not the best friend. I really could be more intense. I really could try harder at this religion. At that moment, you shift your being, God says, forgiven. Because you're not the same person. But to take that step, to have that confidence, to know who we are, to be able to say, I'm going to change who I am on a moment's notice, that requires the capacity to believe that you're built with something big, that you come from something big. And what we do so many times is we lower our expectations. We'll be happy being comfortably mediocre because we don't think we belong in the camp of being great. It's not my thing, because if I was great, I would have known already. And every single year, watch how this works. You ready? Every year God goes, you want to know how to get out of Mitzrayim? I'm going to show you. Watch this. You think Mitzrayim, God says, is what you do, huh? Oh, you think you get out of Egypt when I pull you out? You think I walk you out in front of people? And in walking you out, you become free? It's what you do? It's what we do together? That's how you think this works? Do, have, be? Nuh-uh, that's not how it works. The way it really works is, when you become free? When you determine that you're free. You think freedom is sand dune A to sand dune B? You think I'm going to walk you out of Egypt and move you into the desert and you're going to be a free people? You think God wants a bunch of slaves as his nation? God wants to have a nation that's going to get up on this mountaintop, get a Torah, and walk the world for 2,000 years getting beaten and battered and never giving up. God wants a Chazak and Yaniv. Yeah, he wants those guys to get up and go, we have 4 million programs. That's what he needs, because if he doesn't have a guy like that, or a woman like that, it doesn't go. He needs a nation to walk into a country and say, listen, we're back in our homeland. And everyone goes, really? Welcome back. In about 5 minutes, we're going to come kill you. And he needs a nation to go, really? Guess what? I'm sorry, we're not leaving. We're going to kill you. I heard you. We're not leaving. Ever. Oh, and we're not scared either. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to toughen up. This is who we are, and we're going to figure it out. To be a nation, to handle the Torah, you got to be free and independent. You got to be a free thinker. You can't go to every host country and get blown out. God has taken the nation out of Egypt. He doesn't want to take a nation as slaves because he walks them out, and the minute something goes wrong, they come running back, which is, as anyone who studied the Torah, that's exactly what a lot of them went through. So he has to teach them how to be free. So here's what he does. Listen to this, it's incredible. He doesn't take them out of Egypt. He sits them in the house. Remember, this is Makas Bachoros. They didn't have like alarm systems in Egypt. They had little huts. Can you imagine a little family sitting in a house, screams everywhere? They don't know if some Egyptian is going to walk in with a machete and kill their kids. In slavery, they weren't taken out yet. In the midst of slavery, on the night of complete pandemonium and panic, God says, sit down and be free. And they go, what are you talking about? Lean, eat the meat, the matzah, everything. I want you. This isn't an exercise. Because if you don't shift your be here right now, tomorrow you're going to waste. So do happens after your be. You're going to go through tomorrow and you're going to miss the whole point. That's not going to take you free. Nothing will ever make you free. You know where you start in your freedom? You know where you start changing your life? When you sit down for 1 minute and you say, I don't care if the world's screaming. I don't care if I'm scared. I'm free. That person doesn't control me anymore. Freedom is here. Kindness, sacrifice, greatness is here. And if I sit in a room and the whole world's going down and I am commanded to be free, then I'm not trying, I am free. The anniversary of getting out of Egypt starts when we really got out of Egypt, because we got out of Egypt before we walked out of Egypt. We didn't get out of Egypt when we walked through the sand. We got out of Egypt when a bunch of Jews sat around and took themselves seriously. When a bunch of Jews sat in a room and go, you know what? I'm not supposed to be a slave. I'm not supposed to be a slave to my desires, and to every time I walk into a room I feel threatened, and every time I do this I can't, and all the stuff that I've put, all my 3-year-old self that was taking over the world, now I can barely walk around empowered. I'm not a slave to that anymore. I'm free. and I'm deciding I'm free in this particular area, and I'm going to be the best blank now. And the goal of Egypt is to tap into that piece of you that says, I am ready to not find greatness, but to unlock it. Because it's here. It's in the house. It's not leaving Egypt. It's sitting in my house. It's sitting in my mind. And once I get it here, then it manifests out. Be, do, have. But there's one piece, and with this I'm done. Once you be, then you got to do. So you know what happens after you have that be moment? You're like, I'm in. Then the next day you're like, oh, this is hard. You know what? I'm out. You ever have this? I'm losing weight. You ever have this, by the way, when you go to bed at night? You ever have this? Like, before you fall asleep, you're like, I'm getting up early. I'm going to wake up at 4. I'm going to do my taxes, run a marathon, write a book, save the planet, and I'll be up before 8 o'clock in the morning. Anyone have this? 6 o'clock, snooze. 7 o'clock, snooze. 8:30, yeah, I'll take the day off, snooze. Everyone's a hero at night, right? Because you know what? As soon as you have that moment of be, and we skip through it, you start to see who you can be. You start to tap into who you are deep down. You got to do the work. How do you do that? And with this, I'll end. One of the greatest, I think, if Seder is number one, what's the second most popular thing about Pesach? The matzah, right? God hates chametz, loves matzah for like a week. What's the reason? Answer, run out, right? Does that make sense? Does it make sense that that's what happened? You got 10 plagues, a year of God rim-rocking the Egyptians, and he can't work the timing out on the way out. You know what I'm saying? He found the way to make blood rock everything. He shuts the lights for 6 days. He kills the firstborns, mom and dad. He just can't slow down a drop so we can leave at noon. He can't let us wake up like a human being. He's got to wake us up what's the matter? Paro? That's what this is? You mean the reason why we got bad bread is because we were leaving and Paro's get out or else? Really? God's oh no, it's Paro. Guys, let's get out quickly before he changes his mind. Now God's scared of Paro? This is now a new thing? If you actually look at the pasuk, it says that after 400, I have it here. I was mom's looking in the car. In this be'etzem, in the middle of the day. You know where else is in the Torah in the middle of the day? Be'etzem hayom hazeh, ba Noach, v'shem, v'cham, v'yafas. You know what Hashem did with Noach? Do you remember? He brought him to Teva, and he waited to the afternoon. We're not scared. We're not running. Anybody want to come? When you see the word be'etzem hayom hazeh, what you see is nobody's running. No one ran out of Egypt. No one's scared of Paro. Paro is, if anything, the least of our worries. We're scared of God more than Paro. And I can guarantee you, if God wanted us to leave at noon, relaxed, with a slow float on the way out, waving to everybody else, it would have been just fine. God could handle it after he did what he did. So what's with this whole running business? You ever notice that? And the answer is how life works when you really tap into your be. You know how you know if you tapped into yourself? Because when you go out to do something, you know how you do things as a Jew? You don't mosey through life. You leave what's called a bechipazon. You leave now. You move now. It gets hard. There's no concept of walking out of Mitzrayim. Be, the do and be do have is you run, you move, you fight, you crawl, you climb. Because if you're not willing to fight, and you know what happened? You didn't get deep enough into the be beforehand. Because as soon as you tap into what's important in life, you realize that what are you waiting for? I can't wait till the afternoon, God. Let's get out of here now. God moved the Jewish people in a moment. We can go through all the midrashim, how he moved millions of people in nanoseconds because he was teaching you a lesson. It's now. And I'm going to end with this story and call it a night. So I had a buddy of mine whose dad was very healthy. He was in his maybe late 50s, early 60s, very healthy guy. Ate well, ran, races. One day I'm with my friend, and he gets a call. His father had a little bit of chest pains in the morning. He went to work. He wasn't feeling well. They took him into a local wherever, and the doctor who he went to see, I think it was a friend of his, said, "You're having a heart attack." So you can imagine, I'm with my friend, he gets a call, his father's having a heart attack, panic. Which hospital they sent him to? He worked in Midtown, they moved him to Jersey, but he was from Long Island, panic. Finally, we found the hospital, we come running to the hospital, but it was too late, they already had moved him into bypass surgery, and the whole family sort of comes in one, if trickling in, and cell phone calls, and what's gonna happen? Everyone's nervous, everyone's scared. A couple hours later, doctor comes out and goes, it pays to be healthy. Father's a healthy guy. He reacted well to surgery, everything worked well, he'll be fine. And that's what happened. Came home, took some time, ultimately he was fine. A couple of months later, I'm talking to a buddy of mine and I said, how's your dad doing? I haven't spoken to him in a long time. How's your dad? And he goes, my dad's a changed man. I said, really? How come? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? He goes, I don't know. Like, he just changed. I'm like, well, you gotta find out. He's like, nah. I'm like, come on. He's like, why do you care for? I'm like, I don't know, maybe I can use it for a story or something. I'm saying, like, I don't know, think of me. Stop being so selfish. Go talk to your father. So he goes and talks to his dad. He calls him and goes, okay, I got the best thing for you. I go, okay, tell me. So he says to me the following. It's so subtle, but it has literally altered how I see the world. His father tells him he's being rolled into the OR. And he has this thought of all the things that he wanted to do that he never did. But here's the thing, he liked his life. He didn't want to he didn't have a bucket list. He didn't want to go bungee jumping. Like, he's happy with his job. He's happy with his family. He's happy with his life. But there were so many little things that he never thought he would miss before he passed away. My friend said, he goes, I never fully expressed to your mother, he said, just how much I loved her. There was one of the children that wasn't like the other children. He goes, I never expressed to your brother that I was so proud of him. He had a friend of his who they had kind of fight when they were younger that he never ended up with. And he goes to this list of like a dozen small things that were big, that were the difference between good and great. Not curing cancer, not Einstein. Just going from the B to the A that you deep down know you can be, but for Robert Rosenthal. So he went home and said, as he was rolling in, he said to himself, if I survive this surgery, I'm going to promise myself, he said, that I would always live my life with 3 letters. And my friend said he got out of surgery, he took out his business card, and in the morning when he wakes up, he's got that mirror in his bathroom, there's his business card with 3 letters, N-O-W. And he wakes up in the morning and he says, you know when I live? Now. I don't live tomorrow. Because if I could do it today, that's why I'm alive. I'm doing it today. I'm not calling that person and saying how much I appreciate them tomorrow. I'm not waiting to make up. I'm not waiting to be kind. I'm not waiting to be the person I want to be when I get to, when you can figure it all out in my life, God, then I will. And when you live your life with the understanding that all the greatness that we want in our lives is already baked in. And not just thinking that, buying it. And my only goal in life is to find ways to reveal it, to unlock it. And what stops me from doing so are the things that constrain me. And what constrains me more than anything in this world is the thought that I can't be more when I decide to be more. I can't sit at that Seder table and be free until God moves me from here and God hands me stuff. And when an individual understands that it's be, do, have, and takes themselves that seriously, when you go home tonight and you actually decide the person, not a million things, that one thing you always wanted, and you actually take it seriously because you know deep down it comes from here. And when you wake up in the morning and you don't walk, when you wake up in the morning and you run, when you have the Seder and you have matzah, you get out of Mitzrayim. When you live now and you make yourself a little bit greater every day, you push a drop further, you raise the bar for what life is supposed to be like every day. You wake up one morning and you don't recognize yourself, but you know what? You don't know how you even got there. And I think that's the goal of life. I think the reason why that's our freedom and that's the beginning of our nation, because I think God is saying to us, guess what? I'm not looking for you to be perfect. I put you in Mitzrayim. You guys got issues. I didn't sort of fashion this perfect little angelic people that I lowered down into like some suburb of Yerushalayim every single day, and then I sprinkled my magic dust of perfection on you. I put you in basically the worst place in the world. You know why? Because welcome to being a human being. It's going to stink sometimes. Your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to realize who you are and to fight for it every day. And when you fight for it every single day of your life, you will get out of that Mitzrayim and really become the nation we're supposed to be. Because as they say all the time, we think the challenges are what stops us. The challenges are what makes us. And my bracha to us is that we should have the schus to follow in the footsteps of our ancestors, to actually fight to leave our own Mitzrayim. To realize that this whole thing happening is not a commemorative religion, but it's energy that we need to tap into so that when we go through our lives, whether we win or we lose, whether someone tells us that you're important, whether they give us a letter after our name or a nice-sized house, we realize it's all irrelevant. What's relevant is that we know in our core that we lived our lives tapping into our inner greatness. Thank you very much and have a great night.